So you just came up with this awesome guitar riff, but what happens next? What do you do with it? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to take that one little riff that you just wrote and turn it into this epic masterpiece. Now, before we get into the good stuff, and there's going to be a lot of good stuff in this video that's going to help you, let's just cover one basic task, and you already know this, okay? When you come up with a riff, if you don't capture that riff right away somehow, then that riff is going to just poof, magically disappear, never to be heard again, because you'll forget it. You know how this works. So if you're in your studio, obviously you open up your studio, open up your DAW and just record that riff, and then we'll come back to that. But if you're not in your studio, you're just practicing maybe in another room or just somewhere where you don't have immediate access to your computer or your studio, then the next best thing is just film yourself playing that riff. Alright, so at least the riff is captured, so next time you get into your studio, you can easily replicate that in your DAW. Alright, so I've got this one riff that I came up with this morning, and I'm going to use that as an example for this video. So here's the riff. Now, come on, let's jump into the studio and let's go through my process of what happens next and what I want you to do next after you write a killer riff. All right, so we're in the studio, and as you can see, I've got two tracks open, one for the guitar, we're gonna get our riff down, and also one that I'm using for a drum program, okay? And in this case, for this example, I'm using Toontrack's Easy Drummer. Now, just a quick note on this, the purpose of Easy Drummer, or any drum program here, is to find a pattern, a beat, that's going to accompany the riff. That is our goal, because that's what's gonna help us build out this riff and make it into a song. I don't want you to get caught up into what's the best drum program. Don't worry about that. If you're gonna release something professionally, I recommend hiring a real drummer for that. All right, so moving on, this is what we're using for our writing tool. I've already got a beat in mind here, or a loop in mind. This is kind of like a swing 4/4 time kind of thing here. It's not what I usually write, but that's kind of what this riff is calling for. So let me let you hear this loop that I found here. All right, let's bring it in. So at this point, I'll go ahead and drag that loop into the studio here, and I'm using PreSonus Studio One. That's what I use to record as my main DAW, well, really my only DAW. And after that, I'll set the click track so that I have a countdown, like a little count off before I actually record. So let's record this riff. So we've got the initial riff recorded, and we've got a pretty cool drum loop to accompany that riff. Now, this is where the process gets really fun and creative. What we want to do is build on that initial riff. Remember, we want to make this into a full song at some point. So what I like to do is I like to revisit the drum program and just go through some different loops to see what else I can come up with that's going to flow with that initial riff that I wrote. And I don't want to use the same drum loop that I did for that initial riff, because then I'm more apt to write something that sounds too similar. So I want to just get a little bit different groove here, just so I can be inspired to write something else that's different yet that flows with that initial riff. So I've got a loop in mind. Let's see what I can come up with. All right, so I found another loop that I want to use. Now this one's a little similar, but there is a little contrast between the two loops, which is what you want between parts of the song. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this right here. Now, I need to record the next part of the riff, or the next riff rather. So what I like to do is I like to just have a second guitar track. And the reason why I'm doing this, okay, this isn't a true second guitar track, and you'll see what I mean in a second here. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to play into the guitar track that's already recorded, meaning I want to hear that track. I don't want to record over it. I want to hear that as I begin to record this next little riff that we're just going to make up here, okay? So let me make sure that channel's on. All right, cool. Let's see what I can come up with here. Real quick, we're not quite done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. You see me going back. I'm going to just merge these tracks together. Now, real quick, I will end up re-recording the entire thing all the way through at a later point. But remember, right now we're writing this song, okay? We're just getting the pieces together. So I'm going to move what we just recorded to the track that we recorded the first time around. And again, we'll just play it, this little section real quick. The transition may not sound too smooth, but again, we'll re-record the whole thing later. We're just piecing this together for now so that we have the idea, okay? Let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, cool. It sounds like to me we've got what could be like a verse and chorus, or chorus and verse, however we want to do that. You can always figure that part out later, but I want us to go through this process one more time because now I want a different part of the song. Maybe it will be the bridge. So let's go through the process one more time. I'm gonna pull out a different loop again and let's see what I come up with. We're back in here one more time and I've got another loop. It's going to be a little bit different from the first two loops we used because remember, we're building another part of the song, which I guess we'll call this the bridge. Could be the guitar solo part or whatever. So I'm going to drag this over here. Now, what I'm noticing about this loop here is it's a little bit shorter than the other two loops. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to duplicate this loop. All right, so we'll build it out there. See this little white thing up here? This is just a little marker telling me where the song will end at when I render it down. So I'm going to move this out here somewhere, which will probably end up moving that further because we're going to build this out, right? So we've got this loop here that we can use now. Let's see what I can come up with here. And again, we're going to use that second track to record this part with. And if you notice last time, before I started recording the new riff that I was just making up, I also played along with the end. So that way, when I record that new piece, it just flows a little bit better when I connect those tracks, which I'll show you that again in this here. Okay, so let's see what we come up with because I really have no idea yet. Okay, a little rough ending there, but we can always church that up later. So remember, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to just move this little piece, move the first part out of that, or cut the first part out of that here. And my centerpiece right here between the two riffs is right here where the line is. So I'll cut the first track back to that part and I'll move or cut the front part of that track I just recorded here so that they line up, okay? Because remember, this is why I started playing that last part of the riff before I started playing whatever I just played. So now when I merge them together, I put that in the same track, we've got semi-smooth transition there. Let's just listen for a little bit. Now you can replicate the process that we just went through to create like an intro, an outro, or maybe you want a different part of the song to be the solo part. You want to create something new for that. And remember, you can also cut and paste these sections that you've already recorded to rearrange them however you want. I'm not going to go into detail because every DAW is different, but you've got a lot of freedom and options here just to rearrange these pieces that you're writing and just create your song. On that note, let's just take these three pieces that we have and let's throw in a bass guitar and a second rhythm guitar track and let's hear what it sounds like. Now that was a pretty cool experience for us to share here. Now I told you in the beginning of the video I would give you some riff writing tips at the end and just some more ways to structure your riffs and songs and that sort of thing. So number one, when it comes to riffs, when you're playing around with different riffs, what I always encourage you to do is try some different things with them by maybe expanding on them, which means adding notes, or an expansion could even mean taking away notes. You can still expand the riff by simplifying the riff, if that makes sense. And just try different things as you're writing that riff, and especially as you're writing the parts that will accompany that main riff that you had in your head that you laid down the first time. Also, think about the different parts and how they will flow together. So we had some kind of weak areas. If we go back and listen to what I just recorded, the transitions in between were kind of rough. They're kind of abrupt. So if I were going to release that song, I'd want to go add some more little pieces, pieces of music that would flow into each section a little bit smoother. And I just wanted to kind of bring that up so you can think about that as you're writing your riffs and recording your guitar parts here. Now, I elaborate more on riff writing in my course, Metal Riff Master. There's actually a bonus module in this course. Metal Riff Master is what we consider the ultimate metal rhythm guitar course, and it's actually a new course that I just released about a week and a half before making this video here. So there's a link in the description of the video. You can check that out and go ahead and purchase that and start that. Join the hundreds of other metal guitar players. Again, I've only had this out there for about a week and a half now, and there's already close to 200 people in the course. So it's pretty cool. Check it out. There's a link in the description. And don't forget, if you don't have my free practice guide, grab a copy of that as well. I'll put those two links together in the description of this YouTube video. So guys, thank you so much for watching this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up, and until next time, as always, keep it metal.